I'm going to show you a few of the exercises, well, most of the exercises that I am doing to try to relieve tension in my mid and upper back on the theory that that tension or misalignment that's there might be contributing to autonomic nervous system issues. So there are theories that tension in the back can reduce the activity of the vagus nerve. There are theories that it can interfere with the sympathetic nervous system and put pressure on the sympathetic nerves, causing them to misfunction. And then there are also theories, and this one many of you are probably familiar with from Dr. Perrin, who's an osteopath, that tension prevents proper lymph drainage. And as the lymph builds in the upper body and into the head, then the lymph and the cerebrospinal fluid can't drain, and so they back up into the hypothalamus, causing, again, autonomic dysfunction, in particular the sympathetic nervous system. So that's why I'm working on my mid to upper back, and I've only been doing this for about a week, and I've been kind of blown away to discover how much tension I was carrying around without even realizing it. And I'm a yoga teacher, so join in. Insert all the disclaimers. I'm not a doctor. I am just experimenting on my own body to try to figure out how to relieve my long haul COVID issues. So the first one is an exercise from Stanley Rosenberg. So these are all out of either Stanley Rosenberg's book, which I believe is called Accessing the Healing Power of the Vagus Nerve, and out of Dr. Perrin's book, which I think is called the Perrin Technique. So this first one, Rosenberg calls the basic exercise, and it is very basic. You're going to lie on your back with your fingers interlaced, and then just cup those interlaced fingers behind the base of the skull. If your shoulders don't have enough range of motion for this to be possible, you can just do it with one hand and just kind of settle. And then without moving any of the bodies, the body is just lined up. Let the whole body, the head, the neck, stay still, but turn your eyes to gaze to the right. So just the eyeballs move. And Rosenberg says we should hold this for 30 to 60 seconds. And what we're doing here is we're realigning the upper cervical vertebrae, and we are also triggering the vagus nerve. And so you hold it until you feel the vagus nerve kick in, the nervous system settle. And the signs that he says to watch for are that you swallow, sigh, or yawn. And that is a sign that the vagus nerve is doing its thing. I will say there have been a few times that I have had this sense of my body settling without having the yawn, the swallow, or the sigh. So just tune into the breath. Sink into this pose, feel the pressure of your hands on the back of your head. And once you find that sense of settling, that sigh or yawn or swallow, you can let the eyes come back to center. And if you're not there yet, just stay a little longer. It's always okay to have to rewind the video if we end up ahead of you. So when you're ready to go to the other side, it's the same thing, just the eyeballs move. Now, if you pay careful attention, you'll notice that even though you don't think you moved your head or your neck, there's a muscle activation happening here. And so you'll probably feel a little more pressure against the left hand than the right as you gaze to the left. And that subtle muscle activation is what's helping the vertebra of the cervical spine to align properly. The author of the book recommends doing this a bunch. So I've actually been doing it several times a day, and I'm finding my autonomic nervous system seems to get to that settling spot quicker. So usually the yawn, the swallow, the sigh come pretty quickly now, unless I'm ruining it by talking. So continue to breathe, maybe lengthening your exhales to help your body settle and help the vagus nerve wake up. when you're done, just let the eyeballs come back to center. And we're going to come up to a seated position. If you don't feel like that did anything, that's how I felt the first time I tried it. And then when I sat up and I just sort of like cued into my head, I tend to have a lot of tension in my neck and my traps. I could feel that something had shifted, and I was surprised by it because it didn't seem to me like anything was happening the first time I tried that. The next exercise recommended by Rosenberg is going to open up the side of the neck, and that's all going to connect in to the upper back, the shoulders, the traps, everything. So for starters, just make sure your head is aligned with your spine, and then take the eyeballs, look to the right, and then let the head follow so that the right ear drops toward the right shoulder, letting the left shoulder really relax down. So we're getting a big opening all along the left side of the neck and the left shoulder. He says to stay here for 30 to 60 seconds. I never time it. I just kind of hang out until I feel ready to move. And I won't walk you through the next exercise because it's so similar to this, and you don't necessarily need to do them both, but you know, it's something to know about. You can also do the same exercise, but instead of looking to the same direction that your head is leaning, you could be looking with your eyes to the left and lean the head to the right, and you'll find you can actually go a little deeper with the neck that way. So personally, when I do that, I start with this exercise, so I'm kind of easing into it. He doesn't suggest this, but you know, just being a yoga teacher and kind of enjoying playing around and trying things, I like the feeling of just leaning my head back a teeny tiny bit. It's just like a half-inch move, and then I feel the stretch kind of move a little to the front of the throat where I have a lot of tension. So if you want to play with that, don't, you know, crank the neck backwards. It's just a very subtle movement, so you're keeping the neck long. But it's interesting to notice how moving the head slightly forward or slightly back changes where the stretch is, and you can start to feel some of those connection points and notice where you might be holding tension. When you're ready, slowly move the head back up. It always feels really intense for me. I have a ridiculously long neck, and so I think it's like my head weighs more because I've got a longer thing to work with here. So it feels intense. Okay, so same thing, other side. Start by gazing to the left, and then let the head fall to the left. You might get a little crack or a pop. Again, relax the right shoulder down. And during all of these exercises, I really recommend tuning into your breath. And as much as possible, focus on lengthening your exhalations, because that long exhalation stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, the vagus nerve, which is, you know, our rest and digest mode. Rest, digest, and heal from COVID mode. The yoga teacher in me wants to say that when you exhale, think about relaxing the shoulders down more. That's not Rosenberg, that's just me. Again, 30 to 60 seconds. I have no idea where we are in time. When you're ready to come back up, inhale, just move gently, slowly. Now, if that already feels like a ton and you don't necessarily want any opening beyond that, then you might want to skip this next exercise. Also, if your body just cannot handle any exercise, you might want to skip this next exercise. So I'll show you, and you're going to know better than me whether it works for you. But we're on our hands and knees, so it's already a little bit more effort. If this feels efforty to you, I would say just skip this one. This is the last one I'll show you from Rosenberg on stimulating the vagus nerve. So here we start by making sure the head is in line with the spine. So you can kind of dip your head forward, see what that feels like, pull it way up, see what that feels like, and try to find this sweet spot. It's interesting for me now having a camera, because I usually don't, because then I actually have some visual feedback. So try to find that nice middle place. And then again, we'll take the eyeballs to the right. So you look to the right with the eyes, lean to the right with the head, so now the neck is moving, and then let the rest of the spine tip to the right, as if you're trying to look at your butt back over your right shoulder. And again, we're just holding for 30 to 60 seconds. And again, tune into that breath. Honoring your body's limits trumps all of these exercises. So if this feels strenuous, just don't do it. Just sit and rest and breathe. Again, we're just here for 30 to 60 seconds. And when you're ready to come out, just move slowly, mindfully, see how you feel. Take a big in-breath. On the out-breath, look to the left. Take the head to the left. And then let the whole spine lean left, like you're looking back at that left hip. The first time that I did this, it felt really intense. I had like a sharp kind of pop in my chest, and I had all sorts of weirdness in my back. And I couldn't decide if it was good or bad until I came out, and then it was very clearly good. I felt really open. It's been less dramatic each time since then. Keep breathing. Again, come out at any point if you feel yourself working hard. Stay about 30 to 60 seconds, and then slowly exit. You're all done. And I'm going to show you an exercise from Dr. Perrin, and actually there's a very similar one in the Rosenberg book, but I liked the Perrin one a little better, and they're attempting to do the same thing. So I'm gonna repeat something I already said, which is if something feels too hard, don't do it. And Dr. Perrin talks about that in his book. One of the exercises that he recommends, and I'll just explain it, I won't demo it, is he recommends marching in place and making sure, you know, one arm is moving in conjunction with the opposite leg. So you're like, one arm is up and the opposite leg is up. And the point is to sort of balance the body and the two sides of the brain. And he says to do that for up to 5 minutes a day, even if it's in multiple increments to reach that. But then he says never to do that exercise or any exercise that feels like too much for your body, to always stay in that sort of safe zone, particularly if you think you may have chronic fatigue, where however much you think you can do half of it and just stay below that halfway mark. That's easier said than done, and I am not great at that, but I'm getting good at 80%. Okay, so the next one from Dr. Perrin, find a comfortable seated position, whatever that looks like for you, and we're gonna focus on rotation of the mid and upper back. So interlace the fingers, hold them behind the base of the skull, sit up nice and tall, make sure the head is again neither forward nor back, just right in that balanced center position. And he says to do this slowly, so I like to try to do it with the breath to help me to remember go slow. So I take an inhale, and then exhale, I rotate up to 45 degrees, not more. So it's a comfortable rotation of the head, neck, and upper back over to the right. And then I inhale back to center, exhale, same thing to the other side. And he recommends doing it 4 times to each side. So just move with your own breath slowly. And feel this rotation in the upper back. Only moving as far as feels comfortable. I'm bad at counting and talking. I was actually already bad at that before COVID brain. Now I'm even worse at it. So I may have done 2, I may have done 7. I think we're somewhere around 4 though. So when you've done 4 on each side, we'll stop. Let the arms come down. Give yourself a hug, so a hand on each shoulder. And he doesn't mention this, but there is scientific evidence that giving yourself a hug has all sorts of positive physical and psychological effects. You can get all like snuggly with yourself if you want. And then same thing, we're sitting up tall, the head is in line with the rest of the spine. Big inhale, exhale, rotate up to 45 degrees. So it's the whole upper back, neck, and head moving. Inhale back to center, exhale over to the other side 4 times to each side again at your own pace. And this time, notice how sort of the center point of your twist, the main point where you're going to feel the opening or the work happening, is a little lower in your spine now. So changing the position of our arms has brought the twist down a little bit lower. So we're still in the mid upper back, but not quite as high up as we were. Breathe and move at your own pace. Count better than me. And when you've done 4 on each side, you're done. You can let the arms fall down. And now we're just holding on to the waist. So crossing the arms, kind of snuggling up with your sides. And we're just moving that twist a little lower down the spine. So exact same thing. Inhale, exhale, and twist. Slowly moving back and forth with your breath, kind of like you're rocking yourself. And I just did a bad thing and moved my head out of line with my spine. Keep your head in line with the rest of your spine. It's not bad in like the moral sense. So if you accidentally do it, you're probably still a really lovely person. Notice how the twist is a little bit lower in the back here. And when you've done 4-ish on each side, you are all finished. And then he recommends that you give your shoulders a shrug, rolling them up and forward 5 times. And up and back 5 times. And the other recommendation from Dr. Perrin that I'm trying to use, and I'm not going to demo it here, but I can do another video, or if you look on YouTube, you should be able to find lymphatic massages. He really recommends doing lymphatic self-massage to drain the head and the spine, to drain the lymph. So that's something to play with. And I just remembered one more Rosenberg exercise that I like that I'll show you in case you want more. And this, he says, is helpful for migraines and a stiff neck. I have a very stiff neck, so I like this one. So if you want to try one more exercise, in yoga this would be Sphinx pose, right? So we're just on our belly with our forearms down, elbows are under the shoulders, and you can relax here. You don't have to be super engaged, but think about keeping the back of the neck kind of long so you're not just crunching down with the shoulders up. So the neck is long. And then he says to just turn, look over one shoulder, just as far as is comfortable for 60 seconds. And then do the same thing to the other side for 60 seconds. I won't bore you by staring at you for 60 seconds and then staring away from you for 60 seconds. I'm just throwing it out there, another exercise for you all to try. I hope that some of this will be helpful to you all. It seems like it's helping me. Interestingly, in the little bit of time since I've started, my POTS symptoms have actually been better. I walked around the house with no compression socks for like 45 minutes yesterday and was doing great. And my other symptoms have been really crappy. I've had a fever, a bad headache, fatigue. So to me, that makes it more interesting and significant that my dysautonomia has been better, because it's not like I'm not in a flare. Although in my case, I think this flare is caused by the fact that my kids brought home a cold from their dad's house. So hope y'all are doing well. I won't namaste you because it's not a yoga class. Give me your feedback. I'd love to hear how it helps.